who will replace General Bipin Rawat as the CDS? Big move on the next Chief of Defence Staff. The government amends military acts to choose the CDS. Serving and retired 3-star officers eligible. The move hugely expands the pool of CDS choices. This is a massive move, remember, triggering huge speculation for the moment. After that tragic, untimely death of General Bipin Rawat, the big question now is who will be replacing General Bipin Rawat as the CDS or the Chief of the Defence Staff. It's going to be a very important big position, whoever comes in. This is a huge development coming in. Shiv Arur brings us the latest details. Our executive editor throwing straight across to him. Shiv, the government has amended the Military Act to choose the CDS. What is the amendment and what does that mean?
Important decision that's been taken by the government at this point, Chaiti. Basically, the government has just issued gazette notifications amending the Air Force Act, the Army Act and the Navy Act, and basically saying that retired as well as serving 3-star officers, that is Lieutenant Generals, Vice Admirals and Air Marshals who have recently retired or are still serving but must be under the age of 62, are eligible to be appointed as Chief of Defence Staff should it be considered in national interest to do so. So far, remember, India has only ever had one Chief of Defence Staff, that was General Bipin Rawat, who tragically lost his life in that helicopter accident on December the 8th last year. It's been over a year since his tragic demise. No replacement appointment, has been done by the government. But with this move, what the government has done is massively increase the number of eligible persons. So far, it had been considered that only a serving chief could be appointed the Chief of Defence Staff. Remember, General Bipin Rawat was appointed Chief of Defence Staff right before he retired as the Army Chief. So it had been considered so far that only a serving Chief of the military, either the Navy, Army or Air Force, could be appointed the next Chief of Defence Staff. What the government has now done is basically amend the Military Acts to open it up and say not just the existing chiefs but also recently retired chiefs of the military as well as serving 3-stars, that is Lieutenant Generals, Vice Admirals and Air Marshal rank officers who've also are either serving or recently retired but not attained the age of 62 are also eligible. What this basically means is the pool of choice, the number of people from which to choose from, goes from just a handful to, many tens. If the exact number is not available, but basically a huge number of officers will suddenly become eligible for this. There are many names doing the rounds. There is feverish speculation. It's been nearly 7 months since General Bipin Rawat perished in that helicopter crash. So this is going to trigger massive speculation about who India's second Chief of Defence Staff is going to be.
And Shiv, ever since the tragic death of CDS General Bipin Rawat, the speculation was rife on who will be the next CDS. It's been 7 months, as you rightly pointed out. What was the reason for this delay? Was the government not willing to take this particular decision in haste and wanted to make a proper decision? Is that the reason for the delay or is there any other reason?
No, that's a really good question. A lot of people have been wondering why there wasn't a process in place to simply, appoint the next Chief of Defence Staff. There were a combination of factors, apart from, availability of persons to a political choice, to a political decision. And let's be clear, this is a political decision that the government, has made as far as Chief of Defence Staff is concerned. There were also some seniority factors and other factors. The government may have been waiting, for certain people to retire. And now that certain people have retired, the pool is optimum to create rules in such a way that they become eligible to, to be appointed as the next Chief of Defence Staff. I can tell you, Chaiti, that while this may seem like a very radical move, and it is, it's also going to create a huge amount of suspense and anxiety and speculation within military circles, because suddenly you're making a lot of people who had, made their peace with retirement eligible to become the next Chief of Defence Staff, the country's senior most military officer. So it's suddenly huge. A person who's hung up their boots just a few weeks ago suddenly is now a prospective Chief of Defence Staff. That's what this actually means, and that's why it's such a huge story.